Hello everyone, welcome back to Bioscholar. In today's video, we're talking about the different types of ecosystems. But before that, let's quickly understand what an ecosystem actually is. An ecosystem is a natural system where living organisms interact with one another and with the physical environment around them. Everything inside it works together like a well-built, reliable machine. Every part has its role. Now, an ecosystem is made of two main components, biotic and abiotic. Let's discuss each of them in detail. First, biotic components. These are the living parts of the environment. Plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, every organism that is alive or was once alive falls under biotic components. They interact, compete, depend on each other, and form the living network of nature. The other group is called abiotic components. These are the non-living physical and chemical factors. Things like sunlight, water, air, soil, temperature, and minerals. Even though they aren't alive, they strongly influence where organisms can live and how ecosystems function. Once you understand these two components, the bigger picture becomes clear. Ecosystems exist in many forms depending on the environment they operate in. So now, let's move towards the major types of ecosystems found on our planet. Now, let's begin with terrestrial ecosystems, the land-based systems that cover much of the Earth. These ecosystems are shaped by the climate, soil, vegetation, and the interactions of the organisms that inhabit them. First, let's talk about abiotic factors. Sunlight is usually moderate to abundant, enough to sustain plant growth and provide energy for the entire ecosystem. Temperatures vary depending on the region, with seasonal changes that influence the activity of plants and animals. The soil in terrestrial ecosystems is generally fertile, rich in nutrients, and capable of supporting a variety of plant life, from small herbs to larger shrubs. Water is available in moderate amounts through rainfall, rivers, and groundwater, and essential minerals and gases in the soil and air provide the nutrients organisms need to survive. The living components depend directly on these conditions. Producers, such as grasses, shrubs, and small woody plants, convert sunlight into energy through photosynthesis, forming the foundation of the ecosystem. Consumers, herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, feed on plants and other animals, maintaining a balance in the food chain. Decomposers, including fungi and bacteria, recycle nutrients by breaking down dead organisms, sustaining new life. Terrestrial ecosystems are characterized by this intricate balance between climate, soil, water, and living organisms. Energy flows in a clear pathway from sunlight to producers, then to consumers, and finally to decomposers. Biodiversity is generally moderate, with species adapted to make the most of available resources. Organisms here have evolved remarkable adaptations. Plants grow to maximize sunlight capture, develop structures to conserve water, and thrive in soil with varying nutrient content. Animals adjust their feeding, movement, and shelter strategies to survive within the land environment. Through these interactions, terrestrial ecosystems demonstrate the delicate balance of life on land, a system where every element, living or non-living, plays a crucial role in maintaining harmony. Having seen how life thrives on land, let's now explore the world of aquatic ecosystems, where water rules and life takes on a whole new form. Starting with the abiotic factors, sunlight penetration varies depending on water depth, influencing which plants and algae can grow. Temperature is generally more stable than on land, but it can differ between shallow and deep waters. Water chemistry, including oxygen levels, salinity, and mineral content, plays a vital role in determining which species can survive. And of course, the physical environment, from flowing rivers to still lakes, affects how organisms live and interact. Biotic factors include a diverse array of life. Producers like algae and aquatic plants capture sunlight and produce energy through photosynthesis. Consumers range from tiny zooplankton to large fish, amphibians, and mammals that rely on water for food and habitat. Decomposers, including bacteria and fungi, break down dead organic matter, recycling nutrients to sustain new growth. Aquatic ecosystems are characterized by their fluid environment, where energy flows from sunlight to producers, then to consumers, and finally to decomposers. Biodiversity varies. Shallow coastal areas often teem with life, while deeper regions host fewer species, all specially adapted to survive under unique conditions. Organisms in aquatic ecosystems have remarkable adaptations. Fish may have gills to extract oxygen, streamlined bodies to navigate currents, or specialized feeding structures. Plants may float on the surface, anchor in sediments, or grow submerged, optimizing light capture and nutrient absorption. From rivers and lakes to vast oceans, aquatic ecosystems demonstrate life's ability to flourish underwater, highlighting the intricate balance between living organisms and their watery environment. Alright, so now let's start with the grassland ecosystem. Like the name suggests, grasses are the main thing here, and trees are either just scattered here and there or barely around at all. These areas are home to some of the toughest herbivores you can imagine, and of course, the fastest predators chasing them. The climate is pretty moderate. There's enough rain for the grasses to grow, but not enough to let thick forests take over. And when we talk about the living side of things, the biotic components, we have animals like zebras, lions, elephants, and all sorts of insects and birds that call the grasslands home. Then, on the non-living side, the abiotic components, there's things like sunlight, soil, water, and the temperature. All of these work together to keep the ecosystem in balance. Honestly, it's amazing how every little factor, living or non-living, plays its part here. If we summarize this quickly, then we can say, grasslands are mainly dominated by grasses, with trees scattered here and there. They provide a home to tough herbivores and fast predators. The climate is moderate, with seasonal rainfall and fertile soil supporting this balanced ecosystem. Alright, so that was the grassland ecosystem. Now, moving on, let's talk about the forest ecosystem. Unlike grasslands, forests are areas where trees dominate almost completely, creating dense canopies and shady floors. They're like nature's very own skyscrapers, supporting a huge variety of life, from tiny insects to big mammals. The climate, rainfall, and soil here are very different from grasslands, and all these factors together make forests some of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. Now let's talk about the biotic components we're going to find in the forest ecosystem. Forests are packed with life. You'll see huge trees, shrubs, climbers, and so many different plants growing at different layers. And when it comes to animals, forests are home to everything from insects and birds to deer, monkeys, and even big predators like tigers and leopards. It's one of the richest combinations of plants and animals you'll find anywhere. One of the best examples of a forest ecosystem is the Amazon rainforest. And honestly, the facts about it really surprise people. You've probably heard that the Amazon produces 20% of the world's oxygen. It sounds amazing, but the real number is actually much lower, around 6 to 9%. And most of that oxygen is used up by the forest itself. So that famous 20% oxygen line is more myth than reality. But here's the interesting part. The Amazon is still one of the most important places on Earth. It's home to nearly 1 in every 10 species we know. That means the level of biodiversity there is just unbelievable. And another amazing fact, the Amazon plays a massive role in controlling climate and rainfall patterns, not just for South America, but for many other regions too. So yes, even without the exaggerated oxygen claim, the Amazon rainforest remains one of the most powerful and life-supporting ecosystems on the planet. Now let's move on to the abiotic components of the forest ecosystem. Forests usually have rich, fertile soil that supports a huge variety of plants. Sunlight levels are moderate because the dense tree canopy blocks a lot of light from reaching the ground. Rainfall is typically high, which is why forests stay green throughout the year. And the temperature depends on the type of forest, but overall, forests have a moist and stable climate. Alright, so we've talked about grasslands and forests. Now, let's move on to the desert ecosystem. Deserts are the ultimate example of extreme conditions. Here, you'll find very little rainfall, scorching hot days, and surprisingly cold nights. Life still exists, but everything, from plants to animals, has to be tough and highly adapted to survive in such harsh conditions. It's amazing how nature manages to persist even in the most unforgiving places. Now let's talk about the biotic components you'll find in a desert ecosystem. Plants here are mostly cacti and small shrubs that can store water and survive long dry spells. Animals include camels, lizards, snakes, foxes, and insects, all specially adapted to handle heat, water loss, and tough living conditions. Even the microorganisms in the sand are built to survive extreme dryness. Everything in a desert is designed to make the most out of very little. Now moving on to the abiotic components of the desert ecosystem. Deserts receive extremely low rainfall, sometimes less than 25 centimeters a year. The sunlight is intense because there's no tree cover to block it. The soil is dry, sandy, and low in nutrients. Temperature swings are huge, very hot during the day and surprisingly cold at night. And overall, the air is dry with very low humidity. These harsh non-living conditions shape everything that grows and survives here. Now let's talk about the adaptations that help desert plants and animals survive in these harsh conditions. Everything in the desert is built for one purpose: to save water and tolerate extreme heat. Plants here have some smart strategies. Many store water in their thick stems, their leaves are reduced or turned into spines to stop water loss, and they often have deep roots that go far down to find groundwater. A waxy coating on their surface also helps reduce evaporation. Animals are just as impressive. They conserve water by sweating very little, they tolerate high temperatures, and most of them are active at night to avoid the scorching daytime heat. Camels even store fat in their humps to use as energy when food and water are scarce. Reptiles take it a step further. Their scaly skin prevents water from escaping, and many of them spend the hottest part of the day hidden underground. All these adaptations show how life doesn't just survive in the desert, it evolves to thrive in some of the toughest conditions on Earth. And that wraps up our look at the grassland, forest, and desert ecosystems. Each one works differently, shaped by its climate, soil, and living beings, yet all of them keep the balance of nature going. The more we understand these ecosystems, the more we realize how carefully everything is connected, and how important it is to protect these environments. If you found this helpful, don't forget to follow along as we continue the ecology series. There's still a lot more to explore, and I'll catch you in the next part.